Hello again. Ian Anderson, adjunct political science professor. So I learned quite a bit in this module. It was really interesting to really kind of think about UDL in a different aspect. I really thought about how I was implementing this in some aspects in my courses before we went online. I did utilize Canvas as a supplemental tool, mostly for turning in assignments. I had just actually started venturing into the trepidatious world of online discussion post. I mean, part of that is really, really important because I noticed that most people are getting their information online. I mean, there's no denying the impact that social media has, and pretty much my students have grown up with in this age of posting and commenting, and they're going to have to learn how to effectively discuss topics just like politics online in an effective manner. So I started to implement that, and it went really well. Then when we went to this all digital online format, I really had to find ways to take what I was doing in the classroom and translate it online. Doing that now, the caveat here is doing that in a totally asynchronous format is very difficult, and a lot of the training that we received has kind of helped give me ideas of how to really engage students. And one of the things that has been nice is teaching an asynchronous course, an early college enrollment course where I have Zoom sessions with my students 2 days a week, has been such a really unique experience. I truly do have a passion for my topic, my subject, political science, and believe it or not, although it might seem that way from what we see in the news and maybe our family dinners or we read online, right? People have passionate, sometimes misguided opinions, and they feel them very strongly, right? But I find in the classroom, most of the times, students are very reserved. It could just be because I usually teach later in the evening courses, or the topic itself is overwhelming, intimidating in a lot of ways. So the passion is not usually there. And so I'm having to come into the course understanding that, one, if we really think about it, if an individual does not seek any further education beyond compulsory education at the high school level, especially, and they don't take any undergraduate or graduate courses around government or politics, everything after high school is self-taught from maybe not the most reputable sources, or definitely from very slanted or jaded sources. If you think about if people are only getting their information from a preferred singular news source, it doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal, you're going to find that the information is not all wholly there, and people are making decisions, very serious decisions, without having all the facts or even really understanding how to look at both sides. So that's a long way of saying I really try to create political science course as a skill set. So trying to use real world examples and application is really important to me. That's why they have current event assignments. We do the discussion posts. But what I have done recently is, especially with this asynchronous course, is the content is really all in there, the lectures, the supplemental videos, things like that. But when we have time together, I think that's an important time for collaboration, discussion, because learning really happens collaboratively and in exchange. And the professor has, and I'm as a professor, I'm teaching the material, but I really want my students to be able to leave my course critically analyzing the world around them, to be critical consumers of information, and I don't really care what their opinion is on a topic, but for them to be able to look at both sides of a topic critically, and at the end making a truly formed decision about whatever the topic or the policy might be. So for example, one new lecture or engagement tool that I have experimented with this semester is I have brought the students together in a discussion content where, and I'm going to share my screen here. So I operate still with modules, and I think that's really important because, again, and just to be equitable, Not every student has the best internet connectivity. Schedules are always kind of crazy anyway for college students. And so if they miss something, the internet goes out. Sometimes the internet goes out, we all know. But the content is still there. And so they can still see the lectures and these other things. And we go through the lecture material within the 2 days that we meet. But where I really try to dive into deeper engagement is really, again, going back to that practical application. So this chapter here, we're talking about the governor and the executive branch. So I start out with a short little clip from a show called Designated Survivor. I thought everyone knew what this show was. I'm beginning to really age myself or date myself, right? When half the students have no idea what I'm talking about. But so real quick.
Yes, I'm aware. Well, like I said, we'd like to help you stop the police. Why would I stop the police? They're acting on my orders. Your orders?
That's correct. I don't know if you know this, but I have the largest Muslim population in the country here.
That doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong.
Or that they've been radicalized.
No, but I'm willing to bet they know someone who is. Governor, you can't target an innocent population because you're scared. You have a responsibility.
To all my citizens.
And my first and only priority is to make sure they're safe. Something that Washington, if there even is such a place anymore,
Has proven incapable of doing.
Governor, the federal government is...
So the premise for this show is that the federal government was wiped out. Kiefer Sutherland comes in as the only remaining elected officials, now the president, and so now the federal government's wiped out. And the governors of each state are really ultimately in charge. And this is a great setting to talk about the power that a state governor has. And so they can link back and look at this IMBD piece if they want to see more about the video. So I think that adds some engagement. But we set that up to talk about this real world activity with the recall petition for our current governor, Gavin Newsom. Now, again, the goal here is not really for them to just make a decision one way or another, but they will be confronted with something like this, say when they're at the supermarket, or they're going to hear about this online or on TV. And if they're going to sign this petition, because again, that's being an active citizen, then they need to know what it's about. And so I have them start with a video here, which is from a news source, which is an interview by an individual that is
Governor Newsom
talking about
won 2 years ago. Why are you calling for him to be recalled now?
talking about the recall and his views on it. And so one of the things I asked the students is to go back and look at who the individuals are that, and we do this as a group, and I show them we have this gentleman's company's profile, and you see that he's a venture capitalist, and not necessarily this is a bad thing, but this is a way for them to see, who are these individuals, what are the companies that they own and they invest. I mean, we're getting so much information, so many people on suits and ties telling us what to think, but we never really look deeper. And so this is such a great tool because the students get to do this all together. And then as I put them into breakout groups, and I have them watch this video from a different news source that actually talks on an interview by the individuals running the recall campaign. And they watch it as a group, they discuss it, and then I actually have a copy of the petition embedded in here. And then the students have to read this, and then they come back and share back out as a group their views. There's no right or wrong answer, but they've now had an opportunity to collaborate with their peers, discuss some real world topic. They're able through the technology to look instantly at background information, look at when we talk about interest and group interest and lobbying, and we look at the deeper pieces behind just what we see on TV. This activity I had found was was something that the students really enjoyed. And I think at the end of the day, if they were with their parents or on their own, and they were approached to sign or not a petition or like this recall one in the future, they would have the tools to know how to look this stuff up. So I thought that was, but I would like to get a lot more advanced with this and learn different tools and techniques. Language is a big piece of it. And English isn't always the first language for my students, so I have to try to make sure to find ways to address that. That's why I try to embed different formats in there. When it comes to subject phobia and trying to address this, I try to keep it very low key. Like, there is no right or wrong answer because of the skill set piece of it. When we come to right or wrong answers, those are what the quizzes are for, and that's really just reinforcing reading. A lot of the activities are really designed to engage them in the writing format, discussion, and then of course I try to have them share back out in a group presentation in some ways, like just sharing with the group itself. So I think, a lot of ways the prior knowledge barriers are that if a student hasn't had any sort of civics education for an extended period of time, and that most of their information is self-taught, there's going to be cognitive dissonance, there's going to be just biased, and there's going to be some challenging of some perhaps perceived notions that they believe for a long time. And so trying to put them with their peers, that those lessons that you can do that online with this. I really feel that there's so many tools that it's just trying to find your right flow with this. So I really want to try with the accessibilities piece with improvement. It takes a long time to make sure you do it right. Record the video, make sure you caption it, watch the captioning, the multiple embedding, and making sure the links. What it used to be was you put a PowerPoint together and you went to class, and then it was you being engaging, that got the students going. And now they can mute you. And one of the things is there is the challenge of they don't have their screens on, so although that's fine, but you don't have the feedback of facial recognition, or you can't tell if the joke landed or not. Of course, I play it off and say, hey, you don't respond and I can't see you. I think I'm funny, so you got to deal with it. That's why I'm on TV, right? So, but I really do think that if I could continue to utilize the tools, especially the checklist. I use rubrics quite a bit, but I liked the calendaring piece and trying to do more office hours. One thing I've recently noticed is even though I have Zoom classes and I do videos related to their policy papers, for example, and asking them to discuss both sides of a policy, even though I created the videos and I've had I have lecture and I've discussed in class, I still have students that don't fully seem to understand the assignment all the way through. They seem to, when we talk about, like, the topic can be gun control, but and that's fine, but they need to look at actual law, so like extended waiting periods, and that's really what they need to be arguing for or against. But they get stuck in the topic of gun control, and they never seem, and some of them can't seem to dive down into the deeper piece of actually looking at a bill. So I'm trying to find a way to convey that differently, and maybe using Powtoons or some sort of animated thing. The only problem with the Powtoons is it's pretty expensive, and I don't want to learn something and then have to pay for it. So I'm paid enough as it is. Anyway, so those are some things, but again, I'm really excited by what I've been learning, and I think that this allows to bridge some of those engagement gaps, and technology can be very useful. So that's my piece in this discussion. Ian Anderson, Political Science. Thank you for your time.